And it is now 9:31. State Senator Betsy Johnson is the guest this morning, but we have a new special guest host because Leanne Neal is sick. So we have Connie Green from TBCC. Good morning, Connie.
Hey, good morning. It's good to be here. It's fun to be a guest host just for a moment.
Yeah.
And especially with Tillamook today and Senator Betsy Johnson, one of always a joy to work with and always fun for me to listen to and be informed from. So welcome, Senator Johnson.
Good morning.
So I know that most likely the first question I need to ask is, you made it through the 1 month session. That to me was kind of amazing to watch everything you crammed into a month. So tell me the takeaways. How are you doing, and have you even seen the light of day yet?
Well, the big takeaway is that session was, I think, will be remembered as the worst session in Oregon's history. When we first talked about doing these short sessions, and these were really a creature of Peter Courtney's imagination, our Constitution is set up so that we were supposed to meet the Oregon legislature every other year in the odd-numbered year. And President Courtney had, I think, rightly come to the conclusion that we had an activist judicial branch, we had an activist executive branch, and the people's branch of government, the legislature, were functional no-shows. And so because we met every other year, and we are so inextricably tied to the feds, both at the pocketbook and at the policy level, that it didn't make sense to have us coming in every other year. Although the emergency board functioned in that off year, it still wasn't the same as having the legislature come in. So in 2008, we called ourselves in, basically, and test flew the concept. We did it again in 2010. Both of those sessions went pretty well with a certain amount of minimalist approach and discipline. We took on small issues, and I think we did okay. And then in November of 2010, Oregonians changed our Constitution on a referral from the legislature and created the annual session. The annual session, the February session, is only 35 days long. We also limited how long we can stay during the long session, when in the past we could stay there interminably. I've served in the two longest sessions in Oregon's history. But we created this 35-day abomination. And it was okay as long as we kept the scope narrow, and we have so violated that. The things that we took on this session were so out of bounds in terms of what should be dealt with in a short session. That's not to say that we didn't do some good stuff. We did. But we took on huge policy questions that should have had more adequate debate than the minimal amount that they had. And let me just put this in very stark relief. For a bill to move in the short session, it has to have been in a committee, had a hearing, moved in the first 6 days, or it's dead. And so that's 6 days to have debate on things like changing the minimum wage and making it the highest in the country, like insinuating the legislature into all sorts of housing issues, changing our energy policy. Those things were taken on with, in my view, a paucity of debate. We did a great disservice to Oregonians. I think we're going to be back fixing unintended consequences in subsequent sessions. But I think the conduct of the legislature was reprehensible. And let me just put one last point on it. And that is that about 2 weeks into any short session, we go to what's called 1 hour notice, which means that a committee can post an agenda and act on an issue within an hour. You cannot get to Salem from anywhere in my district within an hour, and so, let alone those people over in Ontario and Pendleton. So it functionally says to anybody who lives outside of that 1 hour driving range, we really don't care what your opinion is.
Which gets you to this sense sometimes you hear about is that I-5 corridor from Portland to Eugene in particular. They're all in that 1 hour area to get there. That ability both in numbers as well as in accessibility changes how things are heard and seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it. And those are where the larger population centers are. Their issues are not the issues of Tillamook, are not the issues of Warrenton, are not the issues of Clatskanie. And I just think that the dominant number of votes that those large metro areas have, and these short sessions that are taking on way too big a policy questions, in my view, created a kind of perfect storm of really, we did a lot, but it's rife with unintended consequences. Let me give you an example. I'm not convinced, and I believe that there may be a lawsuit asking this question, whether or not the governor's construct for the minimum wage is even constitutional. I don't know if, and the negotiations largely went on behind closed doors, which I think is another annoying aspect. Everybody rushing so fast, you can't get everybody at the table, so you take the hand-picked guys that you can get and negotiate these. But I don't know whether creating 3 tiers of minimum wage where you're treating different classes of Oregonians based on where they live is constitutional. And my final complaint about this construct that we have is that I don't know what it is going to do to the fabric of agricultural workers who may decide that they want to leave Eastern Oregon largely in the 3rd tier and come into the valley. Who's going to pick potatoes and onions and help process Eastern Oregon crops? If and motivated for good reasons. I mean, people want to make more money. I get that, but if we have disrupted the fabric of the agricultural workers, I think we've laid up a pretty good problem for ourselves.
Well, we really have. But it was as you described, it was a very fast and policy-driven session in 1 month, and I remember calling your office about something at the end of the session, and you were just in the process of reading bills just to get the bills read. They weren't even being in that process. 1 month doesn't give you time for thoughtfulness, doesn't give you time for response, and some of the things asked of you and your colleagues is truly just moving something without having the ability to really bring in the points of view from all stakeholders.
Exactly. Plus the fact that we were moving so fast that feelings were pretty frayed. And I know that we shouldn't bring subjective points of view into the building. We're supposed to be there as objective policymakers. But one can't help, I think, reacting on a personal level. The minority party felt that they had been completely disrespected, and so they were using all sorts of parliamentary tactics, including our Constitution specifies that the bills have to be read in their entirety unless we waive that requirement by a vote. And there were not adequate votes to waive the requirement, so every bill, even bills that were 60, 70 pages long, were read in their entirety. It takes about 4 hours to read a bill that long. We were wearing out the professional staff, the Secretary of the Senate staff, in reading the bills in their entirety. They would do it in shifts so that the different staff there would all read it, 4 or 5 pages, and then they'd turn it over to the next guy. That had a chilling effect on the collegiality on the floor. We had people reacting very personally to bills, and at one point I thought 2 of my colleagues were going to come to fisticuffs. Yeah. There were snarky comments made back and forth in carrying bills, and it was, in my perspective, a not very good performance on the part of the Oregon legislature, and it could have been controlled if there had been more discipline at the front end.
Right. So it's learning how to take these sessions at the trial. The pilots went well, and then when you get to where we are now, forgetting what made those pilots go well, and how do you discipline yourselves to come back to what made sense?
One of the other things, Connie, that I think all of us need to be alert to, regardless of the subject matter, and that is how easy it is to turn very complicated concepts into sound bites that suggest one thing when they are actually quite another. And let me speak to a bill that comes right to the heart of Tillamook County. This was Senate Bill 1517.
Oh, that's a story and a half, isn't it, Betsy?
Oh, it is.
Excuse me,
and
Senator.
Just to tell people what the bill does do, 1517 created a pilot program only in Tillamook County. We had started out making it a bigger bill, but we had to dial it back. That would allow the county to take a more active role in ensuring that wetlands are sited in places where they are compatible with the neighboring agricultural operations. And it empowers Tillamook County to undertake this collaborative planning process around siting wetland restoration projects in Tillamook County. Now, why does this matter? It matters for a whole bunch of reasons. You know about the Southern Flow Corridor that we've been working on in a collaborative process for, 7 years. It demonstrates that Tillamook knows how to do it. But the other fascinating part of this bill was the people that lined up against it were all of the environmental groups. This bill actually protects farmland, and that's what we all say we want to do. And yet all of the enviro groups, and I would say led by TNC in no small measure, but all of the enviro groups lined up against this bill, saying that it was going to be the end of the world. You couldn't do wetland restoration. Is all we were asking for in the bill was a process that would allow Tillamook County farmers to have the ability to maintain adequate drainage on their farmland, and not be adversely affected by the creation of huge estuary restoration that might also introduce saltwater into farmland.
Right.
And I mean, it made no sense to me at all that the environmental community would so aggressively fight a bill that actually protected farmland.
You know, and it's some of those conversations, when you get down to the sound bites and you don't get down to the conversation, it is difficult. I appreciate you going through that. Let me do 2 sponsors here real quick, and then I want to come back and also talk about the amazing efforts that you put forth for Columbia County and Boeing. But let me do these 2 sponsors, okay?
Good.
Okay, Roby's. Hey, you don't buy furniture every day, so it just makes sense that when you do invest in that new sofa recliner, that you're paying the best possible price. The same goes for that mattress or your refrigerator. At Roby's Furniture and Appliances, you'll find the top name brands: Maytag, Frigidaire, Lazy Boy, Lane Simmons, Tempur-Pedic, and more, all under one roof, all at low, low prices. Roby's offers high volume pricing and selection with small town service and a smile. They have something in every price range and every taste. Don't forget, Roby's offers free delivery to veterans and active duty military. See them right now for great savings, serving the folks who call the coast home. Roby's Furniture and Appliance, Astoria, Tillamook, Lincoln City, Newport, and Florence. And then there's our great sponsor, Tillamook Motor. Okay, this is the time, and Tillamook Motor Company is definitely the place. Why? Because this is Ford Truck Month, and where you can save big time on Ford F-Series, the #1 selling truck in America for 39 straight years. How does that keep happening, you ask? Because of trucks like the Ford F-150 with game-changing innovations, like a high-strength, military-grade aluminum alloy body, making it up to 700 pounds lighter than the previous generation. Yeah, it doesn't stop there, though. The F-150 is also the winner of a 2016 Kelley Blue Book 5-year Cost-to-Own Award. And if you're looking for a beast, look no further than the Ford Super Duty, delivering best-in-class standard horsepower and torque. This is the time. Find your truck at Tillamook Motor Company on the friendly corners of 5th and 7th in downtown Tillamook, a better place to do business. They're both amazing supporters of this community.
Is this where I tell you that I'm a customer of Tillamook Ford? We bought my husband's car there.
You know, they're a great family, and they're just. I'm glad you're able to work with them, because we all love working with them. They're a pretty great place to go. So tell me a little bit about the Columbia County Boeing Special Project. It is one of those things, Senator Johnson, I was just real impressed with. You want to tell us a little bit about that story?
Sure. I believe that this is a transformational opportunity, not just for Columbia County, but for Oregon, and I would dare say the region. This is a very, very important project. I was first introduced to the concept of what had happened in Sheffield, England, when one of the founders was here in Oregon. His name is Adrian Allen, and it's actually Sir Adrian Allen. For his efforts at Sheffield, he has been given the Order of the British Empire by Her Majesty. And he's like a Pied Piper talking about what they did in Sheffield. The University of Sheffield, in partnership with major businesses, none the least of which was Boeing, took a bombed-out, abandoned coal mine and coking facility, rehabilitated it, and turned it into the most valuable real estate in the United Kingdom outside of the property that Parliament is situated on.
Whoa.
Sheffield is the home of stainless steel and had for years, back to the Industrial Revolution, been part of the industrial heartland of England. And the reason that this was bombed out was during World War II, in order to try to damage English industry, the Germans bombed Sheffield relentlessly. And so when the site was cleaned up, where AMRC is now, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Center, they actually found unexploded German ordnance from World War II. So what they did was clean up this site. I fell head over heels in love with the concept and decided that I better go see what it was that I was selling. And so on my own nickel, the week before the legislature convened, I flew to England and went to Sheffield. And, Connie, it is better in reality than it was in my imagination. This is a remarkable partnership that has been established. The AMRC, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Center, is two halves of a whole. One half of it is industry-run, and they are doing advanced applied research and development, and not just for the sake of doing advanced applied research and development. The products that they're developing there actually then go into production and into products. They have 7 schools there. They're doing medical. They're doing aerodynamic. They're doing composite. They're also doing a special one for McLaren Racing, which is an iconic English brand. We will probably not be doing that here. But the keystone is aerospace. And the theory is that over the course of the next number of decades, we will be the demand for airplanes will be considerable, and you see the competitiveness between Airbus, a European product, and Boeing, an American product, in trying to fill the skies with the next generation of aircraft. And so AMRC has this research side that's industry-dominated, and then the other side that they have is a training academy for young people. They use the word apprentice in the European sense of the word, where they're taking kids 16, 17, 18 who are not going to go to college. They come in, the kid declares a specialty that they're interested in, and let's just pick welding or machining for an example. And so then the young person is matched with a company. The young person goes to this special training academy and is schooled in the discipline that they have chosen, all the time maintaining a relationship with the company. The company pays a stipend. The company pays tuition. The kid learns. In the first year, the kid is completely in school, then transitions over to the company. Then in the last year is mostly at the company, but comes back to the school for advanced training, regulatory review, that kind of stuff. The young person leaves with a relationship with a company that hires them. And it's remarkable. We were walking around down on the floor talking to these kids. They're trained in a state-of-the-art facility with stations for all of them to work. They're actually working on projects that have real-life applicability. They have these relationships with a company. They do collaboration so well in this facility that there are young people walking around wearing Boeing shirts actually working on Airbus. I saw stuff when we were there that was like magic. I paid particular attention in the medical division because they are laser printing replacement orthopedic parts. And most people who know me know I was in a bad traffic accident and I've got more hardware in my hiney than you can shake a stick at. What they're developing at Sheffield are platforms that bone grows back around. It's like magic. They're doing some military applications, mostly civilian, that go immediately from sort of the research and development into the supply chain. And as a result, they're able to produce, especially aerospace, faster, cheaper, lighter, greener, better. And so Boeing has set up 14 of these around the world. They have no presence in North America. I saw the planets lining up saying that PCC, Portland Community College, owes Columbia County a campus. We are in their tax catchment area and pay them about $2 million a year and frankly don't have much to show for it. So they were coming to Columbia County with a physical presence. The Boeing plant, that is the largest machine plant in Boeing's system, is in Gresham, employs over 1,600 people. So we're close enough. We had 200 acres of land come into the Scappoose UGB. We've got willing local, county, and state government here. We've got the unions all on board. This is the perfect alignment. And we're struggling a little bit to get the communication all lined up in a way that satisfies everybody's needs. But if we don't blow this, frankly, it is going to be a regional opportunity, and it will spill over into TBCC, it will spill over into Clatsop Community College, it will spill over into industry and help bring back a lost generation of engineers and, frankly, revitalize machining and manufacturing, which still remains one of Oregon's strong suits in our export economy. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
Well, it is, and what I value, and I talked a little bit earlier about this, but what I value is Boeing is the lead, but it brings in many industries, and whatever on the education part, you bring in this wonderful, great gift of learning and then applying. And I think of the MECOP program, which is the engineering program that Oregon State and Portland State and OIT are all part of. And in that program, you can do so much in classroom, but then you have 6 months out with an employer. You're paid, you apply, you come back, and it's a similar kind of concept. It's just more of the European model, that ability to learn and then go apply and start doing real projects. I think it's just so exciting, and to really bring together a variety of education and the apprenticeship community and a variety of industries with Boeing leading it, you get the best for everybody. And so,
absolutely. And let me just, I'm so glad you said what you said, because partners in this are OSU, PSU, OIT. We don't want to duplicate or usurp any of the work that's happening at the big research institutes or universities. In fact, quite the contrary. We want to complement it. And there's a methodology here where some of the students can go on and take advanced degrees, masters, PhDs, in those university settings. So this is huge, huge partnerships.
Yeah.
And it's just making sure that all of the partners have clear expectations about what's going to happen and how it is that we're going to do governance and how it is that we're going to build the facilities. The legislature provided some money for the enterprise, and it is for the enterprise, not an institution within that. We have to go back to the legislature and say, this is our business plan. This is how we're going to deliver value for the taxpayer, because at the end of the day, it's the dear old taxpayer that's picking up the freight on this. And the last thing I want to say is that if the Sheffield model is replicated here in Columbia County, that private business will go on private land and generate tax revenue. So there are some people that I'm sure are thinking, Boeing's involved in this. This has got to be corporate welfare in some degree. It absolutely is not. Companies have built onto the Sheffield campus, owning their own dirt and building their own buildings. They are interested in being within the gravitational pull of the research, because the supply chain is there, and you go from the research lab to practical application and products that can come into the supply chain. And that's where in the beauty of the inward capital investment is. So we have a chance to replicate that, and I swear the benefit will multiply and spin out of Columbia County into other places. This will be Boeing's only North American facility if we can pull this off.
Well, and I think everyone's excited to try to pull it off and not say try but will. So
Thank you.
It is one of those things that I think long term for and I'm going to use the Oregon and Washington, the Northwest, it is a critical foothold, because that, if you think about Boeing moving some things to Chicago, you think about some of the manufacturing and people concerned with manufacturing, the ability to focus in on the manufacturing part, and manufacturing is changing so quickly, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in food production, manufacturing is changing. So how do we have a premier center in the Northwest that can assist all? I think I'm looking forward to it.
Well, spoken as an educator, you are a professional educator. It thrills me that you're excited about it. And I think there's going to be shared value to educational institutions around the region. Some of your kids could easily be here. And what's so cool is that when we were over in Sheffield, all of the young people that are in the training facility wear shirts that say AMRC, Advanced Manufacturing Research Center, Boeing, and then on the other side is their name, Betsy Johnson, and the company that I'm associated with, Rolls-Royce. I just picked Rolls-Royce because Rolls-Royce has just built a new building in Sheffield. And there has been ongoing support from the government. The English government has seen the value of what has happened at Sheffield, and as I said, conferred orders of the British Empire on the people that are helping to pull this together, demonstrating the value that this has brought to the United Kingdom. So this is one of these win-win-win-win-win deals. We've just got to get over the speed bump of figuring out how do we communicate, who goes where, what's the governance model, and we'll get there. We cannot fail. The opportunity is too glorious.
I totally agree. Hey, let me start doing a transition here. We only have a couple minutes to go. One of them, I'm going to go to something important to Tillamook Bay, is on Thursday, and you're attending, is our 35th anniversary. Actually, March 31st, 35 years ago was when the college was approved as a district and signed into place. And,
Yay!
Oh, isn't that exciting?
It really is.
It is. And so everyone show up and down by the at the Pelican and Tillamook. There'll be a big white tent. And it is just a way to say thank you. The Pelican and others have gone out of their way to create this party to just celebrate. So it's a stop by. It's 5 to 7. Around 5:45, there'll be a few people just saying thanks to the community, really. This college at Tillamook Bay in particular, all the community colleges are this way, but Tillamook is the smallest, as Senator Johnson and I know. There's many times we'll talk about colleges, and I'll say, well, we're the smallest, and we are, but it is...
You're one of the mightiest.
There you go.
And when you think what's happened to that college over just the period of time that I've been privileged to represent Tillamook, when I first got there, they said, oh, we're ADA before ADA was cool. Why is that? Because the doors are so wide because you were housed in a former mortuary.
You got it.
I was so pleased to be part of the team that brought Capital Construction Box, and that campus now is second to none. It is a gorgeous campus, just rife with potential. It's very cool. So look what's happened in 35 years.
Oh, it is, and just, and building now the second building, which is going to bring Oregon State out right next door to us. So it's really a Partners for Rural Innovation. You talk about innovation. Our intent is to keep building on what Oregon State has, our amazing extension, and the ways that we can do things together with economic development. So I'm excited. So the like I said, on the 31st, 5 o'clock, enjoy us at the 35th, and you're coming. Also, you have been a great supporter through the Johnson Foundation of our Mildred Davey Foundation scholarships, and you recently just set a check for the Rydell Scholarship in memory of Art. And so I just thank the Johnson Foundation for just the ongoing support for Tillamook students, for people in Tillamook to be able to stay in Tillamook, get started, and go where they want to go, whether it's a career here and you stop with an associate's degree or an apprenticeship, which we have apprenticeship, huge connections, or you're going to go on and transfer. The Johnson Foundation has been so supportive of education, so I just thank you for that. I need to wrap up here with a few birthdays for Judy Sowers, Amy Downing, Christopher Yank, Bowen and Franklin Weeks, and tomorrow Lisa Griner will be visiting with Claire Moody about the B-Day at the Fairview Grange on April 2nd. So more to come. Senator Johnson, thank you again. There's never enough time. I wish this was always an hour when you're here talking to us. So
thank you, and I just don't want to conclude without acknowledging Art Rydell and his remarkable entrepreneurial life, his willingness to give back to the community. I attended his memorial service, and there were a number of folks from Tillamook. I sat next to Mrs. Moe,
yes.
And he was a remarkable guy and a good friend of the college, and we're all going to miss him. He was an iconic Oregonian.
He was, and I value that he fell in love with Tillamook as well as with Portland. So it was great having someone that loves both the big and the small.
Yep.
Thank you, Tillamook, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you,
President
Johnson.
Green. Bye-bye.